You're watching CBS News continuing coverage of Showdown in the Gulf. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here are Harry Smith and Paula Zahn.
Welcome back to this special edition of CBS This Morning. CBS News coverage of the war in the Gulf continues. I'm Harry Smith.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm Paula Zahn. Here are the headlines at this hour. The U.S. commander in the Gulf gives his first assessment of the war. He says things are going well. 2 more U.S. planes are confirmed lost in the fighting. A total of 7 Allied jets are now confirmed down. The world waits for Israel's response to a missile attack overnight. And the weather puts a crimp in the Allied bombing effort against Iraq. For the first time since the Gulf War began just over 36 hours ago, the American commander in Saudi Arabia told reporters how things are going. According to General Norman Schwarzkopf, they're going as planned.
We are flying a total of about 2,000 air sorties of all types each day. More than 80% of all of those sorties have successfully engaged their targets.
General Schwarzkopf confirmed that 7 Allied aircraft have been lost, 3 American, 2 British, 1 Italian, and 1 Kuwaiti. Pictures just released by the Pentagon show some of the effectiveness of the bombing. They show raids on various air bases, Scud missile facilities, and other military targets by F-111 fighter bombers and F-117 stealth fighters. Defense officials commented on the remarkable accuracy of the strikes and said that Allied jets are going after Scud mobile missile sites now. The BBC reports that the presidential palace was struck in Baghdad, but Saddam Hussein was not there. He was reportedly seen in a shelter. 7 Scud missiles hit Israel during the night. They did not carry chemical weapons as feared, but they did serious damage and injured at least 10 people. Israeli jets this morning patrolled their own skies, waiting for orders that may never come, orders to retaliate against Iraq. American and other Allied officials are urging restraints, but there are unconfirmed reports that some Israeli planes are already on their way to Iraq. One extra problem, though, for Allied pilots has cropped up this morning. The once ideal weather over Iraq and Kuwait is changing, interfering with some types of Allied aircraft. And those are the headlines for now.
We want to go to Amman, Jordan right now and check in with Alan Pizzi, a veteran CBS News correspondent who was in Baghdad 2 nights ago as the bombing and the shelling of Iraq began. Alan, first, how are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm pretty dirty and pretty smelly. There hasn't been any water in Baghdad since the raids began. They came without warning. We had a little bit of warning, of course, that it was going to happen, but suddenly the place just erupted. There was a lot of banging and booming, and then the anti-aircraft fire went off. I must say, none of us ever saw an aircraft. People debated as to whether or not they'd heard one. And we all debated what a cruise missile sounded like, since nobody ever heard one of those either. But it went on all night. We spent part of the night hiding in our rooms, looking out the window and trying to see what was going on. And then we got, some of us went down, most of us went down to the shelter, and then they tried to herd people down to the shelter, and then those that they got, they locked in. So I can't tell you much about the rest of it. But there was a lot of anti-aircraft fire going up there on the first night. And the next day, I drove around town as much as I could. I didn't see a lot of damage. We do know that a lot of things were hit. There was no damage in any of the residential or business areas that I actually traveled in. I did manage to file something from the U.S. Embassy phone, but it was suddenly cut. And that was the end of communications. There are no satellite communications. There's no water. There's no electricity other than emergency generators. And not many people on the streets, although I did see a guy collecting garbage, of all things.
The night that the bombing started, we know that we had communicated with you just around the time that the evening news began. It became impossible for you to communicate with us later. Can you describe what you went through trying to get some sort of a phone line out or something? Because communication with Baghdad is somewhat unreliable on a given day anyway. But what kinds of problems did you encounter as you tried to communicate with us after the fighting started?
No, the only problem, I guess, was that there was no line. We have 3 phones in our offices there, and people were talking to the operator in the sweetest, nicest possible ways on some and screaming on the others, and somebody ran downstairs with money to throw at them. It just didn't do us any good. If I seem to have even less hair than I had the last time you saw me, it's because I think I tore quite a lot of it out trying to get a phone line out. But it's the most frustrating thing in the world to know that if only you had a phone line, you could tell people something that's unique in your experience. And We just couldn't do it.
Relative to what you have seen, because you have had experience throughout the Middle East, and if I recall, I can remember you describing some similar kinds of actions from Libya not too many years ago.
Embarrassment of riches, you might say.
Yeah, unfortunate, I guess. But at the same time, how did that bombing of Baghdad compare with anything you'd experienced before?
Interestingly, it wasn't as loud as Tripoli, because in Tripoli, the F-111s came across our hotel. We later learned at 500 feet and 500 knots, and they were unloading less than a mile away from us. It was very, very loud, as loud as anything I heard, I think, in, say, the Israeli invasion and siege of West Beirut. But I've never seen that much ordnance put up from the ground. It was awesome, the amount of anti-aircraft fire that went up. But none of it seemed to be effectual. I think they began firing long after whatever came in was gone. We didn't hear any huge explosions even. There were periods when there was a lot of rumbling and the vibration and fireballs going up, but it wasn't as loud as Tripoli, but it was more pyrotechnic, I suppose, than Lebanon.
Mm-hmm. As you then finally decided, after you made your survey of Baghdad, decided to try and get out of Baghdad and Iraq, what kinds of problems did you encounter getting out of the country, and how did you get out of the country?
Well, we decided to go because we just had no communications, and we knew we weren't going to be able to satellite anything because the TV tower and so on had been hit. And we thought this was just probably an unhealthy place to be. So the first problem we had was getting an exit visa, but eventually the Deputy Minister of Information came to the hotel, sat down in the coffee shop, gave a rambling, almost incoherent briefing all about Arab history and all kinds of rubbish. And then he just said, if you want to go, go, and signed exit visas for anyone who wanted to go. That was the easy part. Then we had to find drivers that were willing to do it. That took several hours. We abandoned a lot of gear because we simply had no place to put it. Once we started down the road, it wasn't a big problem. We encountered no roadblocks whatsoever. There was just no sign of any military activity other than soldiers clinging on buses. We saw one bus with must have had 25 guys on the roof, all heading back for wherever they were supposed to report. About 100 miles or so out of Baghdad, we stopped to pour more gasoline into a jerry can. Hoarding fuel is illegal in Iraq, so the driver didn't want to put it until we were out of town. While we were there, we saw two Iraqi jets, I think they were Mirages, sort of doing lazy circles and flips over the main highway. And we thought, that's a very silly thing. They can't be American or they'd be moving faster. All of a sudden, they split apart and dove for the ground, and the one leveled out literally just above the surface of the ground. And as he leveled out, right behind him, there was a huge flash and a crash. And we saw his plane kind of rock and judder in the force of the explosion, and then he was gone. And we looked up high in the sky, a clear blue sky. There were two vapor trails running side by side. And what I think it was an American or at least an Allied combat air patrol of a couple of planes up there just looking for targets. And when they found these Iraqis who probably thought they were safe so close to Baghdad, they let go, and they just made it. They just made it happen.
We had heard reports of people trying to get out of Baghdad in the 48 hours or so before the war started, or people at least trying to get out of the immediate city. As you crossed the border into Jordan, did you see refugees? Did you see people trying to get out of the country?
No, that was the surprising part here. There were probably a couple of dozen of us, maybe 36 cars lined up in a few buses, people with all their possessions piled on it. We arrived at that border at midnight. It took us 9 hours to get there, which should have been a lot less than that. And when we woke up in the morning, having slept in the back of the car, there were this few people, not that many. I thought there'd be a line 10 miles long, but there wasn't. And when we crossed into Jordan, there are 3 refugee camps in the 40-mile no man's land between the 2 border posts, and they were empty. There were a lot of Jordanians there doing some work and setting them up, but they were pretty empty. But it's not a particularly wise idea to travel at night anyway. We were caught in 2 separate air raids on the way out, so maybe people are wary of traveling at night. Perhaps today, during the day, you'll find a lot more of them coming. It took us 24 hours to get here. The trip should take about 14.
All right. Alan Pizzey, who is now safe in Amman, Jordan, we will let you get to a phone and make the phone calls you need to make, and we'll, I'm sure, get back to Alan to ask him a lot more questions about what his journey was like and what it was like in Baghdad as the bombs began to fall. Paul?
I just can't imagine that. Right now we're going to check in with Dr. Henry Kissinger, who is joining us right now to get his assessment of what these Iraqi missile attacks on Israel means. We're getting lots of conflicting information right now. We're not sure of the status of the cabinet meeting going on in Tel Aviv right now. We now have the Israeli foreign minister saying Israel has not decided whether to retaliate for the attack or not. What do you think Israel should do?
Well, obviously the Iraqi strategy is to get such a reaction from Israel that they could turn this into an Arab-Israeli war and to say that the Allied forces are fighting on behalf of Israel. The Israeli problem is to let your country be attacked without provocation, not being part of the alliance, and not respond makes you look impotent. So they have to navigate between those two. From the American point of view, it might be most desirable if they did not respond right away. From their point of view, I think some response is likely.
But
we ought to keep our shirts on and not, after all, our Arab allies are fighting for their own lives. They're not fighting for us and they're not fighting for Israel, and we shouldn't be so frantic about it.
But realistically, how do they navigate this with the tremendous political pressure that's now being put on them both by Great Britain and the United States?
Well, I really think the United States and Great Britain should calm down a bit because we are granting Saddam Hussein's premise. When a country gets attacked without any provocation whatsoever, it is not totally unreasonable for it to want to retaliate. If they respond, I hope they do it with great moderation against clearly military targets and for symbolic reasons to show that they cannot be attacked with impunity. On the whole, it is best to let the campaign go forward as it is, because it will lead to the destruction of Saddam Hussein, and it is really playing his game to let him turn it into an Arab-Israeli war, which it emphatically isn't. They took Kuwait, they've been looting it, they've been depopulating it. It has nothing to do with Israel.
I'd like for you to respond to one report earlier that Senator Lugar dismissed as propaganda, and that is a report quoting an Iraqi minister saying that Israeli warplanes have already flown to Saudi Arabia and they are ready to join the multinational
Absolute
force.
Nonsense. The Saudis would not permit it, Israel would not want to do it, and Israel has understood all along that this is not a fight between Israel and Iraq at this point. This is a fight between the moderate Arabs of the Gulf, supported by the United States, and Iraq, because Iraq is threatening the independence of those states.
We know that Deputy Secretary of State Lawrence Eagleburger met with Prime Minister Shamir last weekend to sort of work out the details of how we're going to coordinate all this. If Israel does decide to retaliate, give us your view on how we really will coordinate all this. You know, there is a fear that we're going to knock each other's planes out of the skies.
Well,
and
I'm sure
all
that's not going to happen. If Israel does decide to retaliate, I hope that Washington will stay very calm and not give the impression that this is an Israeli problem rather than an Iraqi problem. I'm sure that they will have to operate in some area in which they believe that there are no American planes, otherwise there is a danger of a clash. And all things considered, it's in everybody's interest, including Israel's, that the response of Israel be very restrained. But I think all these public appeals to Israel should really stop, because they give the impression that we are granting Saddam Hussein's premise.
The administration continues to tell us not to be overly optimistic about the campaign, although General Schwarzkopf in his briefing really told us how highly successful some of the missions have been so far. Do you think we have been overly optimistic? And what is it that you expect that this might turn into?
I think that, first of all, I think the administration deserves enormous credit for its courage in undertaking this campaign. I believe it will achieve the fundamental objective, which is to restore a military balance in the area and remove the fear of Iraqi aggression. I think it will liberate Kuwait, and I really think it is being very effectively done. The only possible danger is that we will launch a ground attack prematurely. The only rational hope that I can see Saddam Hussein having is to inflict heavy casualties on American ground forces at a time when his ground forces are still intact. But otherwise, I think it is going very well, and it has been very well designed.
Well, we very much appreciate your insights here this morning. Thanks again for joining us this morning. Dr. Henry Kissinger.
We want to get back to some of the latest headlines in the Persian Gulf War. Here's what's happening. Commanding General Schwarzkopf gives a positive review of Operation Desert Storm. There are conflicting reports of Israeli jets heading toward Iraq. 2 more U.S. jets are reported down in the Gulf Air War, and despite weather problems, massive Allied airstrikes continue against Iraqi targets. From Saudi Arabia this morning, amazing pictures of U.S. bombers in action. This pool video was released just minutes ago as General Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of Operation Desert Storm, briefed reporters for the first time since the war began. The infrared camera shows just how precise the U.S. nighttime bombing runs have been and how devastating. Schwarzkopf added that American jets have a special target today, the mobile Scud rocket launchers that Iraq used last night to attack Israel. Incredible pictures.
This morning, the United States Air Force found 3 mobile erector launchers with missiles on board inside Iraq. These launchers were obviously aimed at Saudi Arabia, given their positions. Those 3 mobile electric launchers have been destroyed.
Schwarzkopf also said the Allied forces are running 2,000 bombing sorties a day in the war against Saddam Hussein with an 80% success rate. He also revealed that 7 Allied aircraft are now missing, including 3 U.S. jets. There have so far been no direct ground combat engagements, according to Schwarzkopf. But he did confirm that 3 Americans, 2 Marines and a Navy medic, were slightly wounded by an Iraqi artillery fire near the Kuwait border. That's our headlines up to now. We're going to take a short break. Our continuous coverage of Operation Desert Storm continues right after this.
Is someone joining you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. A blind date.
Hi, I'm...
Julie? It's nice to meet you.
Why don't we go someplace else? The service here is kind of unpredictable.
Crisp, clean Dentine. We'll take care of your breath. The rest is up to you.
Come on and lose that weight, get your body slim, lose yourself in the taste. You gotta
Dynatrim, the weight loss plan from the makers of Centrum. Just blend for a delicious shake. Blend longer for a creamy mousse. Or freeze it for a frozen treat. Come on, lose yourself in the taste.
more delicious ways to lose it. Shake it, freeze it, creamy mousse it. You've never been so thin. Introducing Dynatrim. Lose yourself in the taste.
When you're cooking your best, nothing tastes quite like butter. Nothing bastes quite like butter. Nothing bakes quite like butter.
Butter.
Butter! When you're cooking your best, nothing tastes quite like butter.
Introducing Glade Plug-ins Air Freshener. It keeps
On freshening. And freshening.
And freshener.
Plug it in, plug it in. New Glade Plug-ins freshens for 30 days. Plug it in, plug it in. Gently, constantly warms this refill cartridge for a full 30 days. Freshens 30 days, freshens out of your way. Plug it in, plug it in. After 30 days, just pop in a refill. Try Glade Plug-ins and plug into 30-day freshness. Plug it in.
I'm a second-half quarterback.
That was a stellar performance.
15 pieces of chicken or a supersized bucket of hot wings, just $9.99 each.
Anytime you're ready, gentlemen.
Super buckets from KFC.
Come on, Dad.
This whole range of emotion and anxiety that a lot of Americans are experiencing as we are now some 36 hours plus into Operation Desert Storm. Among those are Iraqi Americans. We want to talk to a couple of them right now. Sandra Kassah joins us from WJBK TV in Detroit, along with John Laucia. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Sandra, any extraordinary things happened to you over the last 2 days as You've watched this attack start and reaction from some of your friends and neighbors.
I think everyone is just concerned with everyone that has family back home and for the people that have Iraqis in the service.
John, how about you?
Well, of course, I'm very concerned about the events in the Middle East. I was hoping that this crisis could have been resolved peacefully. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Now that war upon us, I hope that it will end very soon and the loss of life will be held to the absolute minimum.
There was a lot of speculation that once hostilities started, there'd be a backlash against Arab Americans, especially Iraqi Americans. Have either of you experienced anything like that? John, first.
No, I have not. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. Our friends are calling and asking about our concerns and are very worried about us, and they have been really supportive.
How about you, Sandra?
I'd have to agree with John. Everyone's been very supportive.
Sandra, you have a brother who is in the armed services. Is that not correct?
Yes, he is.
He's over in Germany. How has he been faring through all of this?
Actually, we were kind of concerned because we heard they were sending troops over, and I was able to get to the base yesterday, and he said that everything is fine, and if they do get sent over, that they hope that it'll be quick and they'll be right back safe and sound.
John, you emigrated to this country when you were just a child. You have your own children now and a deep and rich Iraqi heritage. How do you explain to them what they're seeing right now? How do you explain something like Saddam Hussein to your own children?
Well, it's really hard to explain because it's hard for children that are born in this country in a democracy to understand what it's like to live in a dictatorship. It really is very hard. They don't understand, and all you can do is try to explain to them and to listen to their concerns and ease the pain of what they're seeing on television.
Have they been mistreated at all at school or from any of their classmates or anything that you know of?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. John Lausea and Sandra Cassau are getting a little bit of a reaction this morning from some Iraqi Americans as we are now more than a day and a half into Operation Desert Storm.
And our coverage of that will continue right after this. And Harry and I are back now. Actually, I'm going to give you the opportunity to leave for a couple of minutes. I'm going to catch up right now with a man named Ernest Alexander and Joseph Lamerding and Tony Mireles, who join us from our Washington bureau. All three of them had lived in Kuwait and were taken hostage. Let's see if we can catch up with them right now. And good morning to the three of you.
Good morning. Good morning.
I know there's a little bit of confusion right now with the signal. We have some stunning results, I think, from a New York Times CBS poll, which shows that 78% of the Americans interviewed yesterday said that they thought the war was going very well for the United States. 86% saying they approved of General Bush, that is President Bush, and his handling of this crisis. George, what are your impressions at this time? Ernest?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Actually, I think we're very, very happy that the American people seem to be supporting what's going on. When we were hiding in Kuwait, this is what we wanted. This is what the Kuwaiti people wanted all along. I guess the only thing I have to say is I'm very, very pleased, at least through the early hours of this war, that the kind of message that we were giving on Capitol Hill last week, that the Iraqi people are as much victims and these soldiers are as much victims as the Kuwaiti people. The tanks deserting, the plane giving up, Iraqi soldiers changing their clothes and trying to come over to the other side. This has been very encouraging, and perhaps a lot of our boys won't have to fight if this continues.
Describe to us what you shared with the congressman about your experience in Kuwait, Ernest.
Generally, all of us, we came and we were able to say some things about why we didn't think that sanctions would work quick enough in the short term. And, some of us were able to say that the spare parts were actually making their way in, and goods from Jordan date stamped, and from other countries date stamped very, very late in time. This kind of thing.
Right now I'm going to give Joseph the opportunity to talk. How concerned are you about the turn of events overnight now that the Iraqis have in fact launched a missile attack against Israel?
Well, it's extremely unfortunate that the Iraqis have indeed tried to spread their aggression to other countries, one being Israel. Israel has definitely taken a very cautious posture throughout this crisis. It's something that no one wants to see, but unfortunately it has happened. We can only hope that all the people involved continue to think hard about the long-term prospects for a continued war. Everyone wants to see this crisis come to some sort of a resolution very quickly. We can only hope and pray that people do not give up faith and do not give up their resolve.
Tony, at this point, what is your biggest concern about Kuwait, the country that you finally successfully were able to get out of?
Well, at this point, my biggest concern is, of course, for the brave men and women of Operation Desert Storm and the Kuwaiti people who are still in Kuwait, subject to all the atrocities of which we were spared. My biggest concern is to see that hopefully the conflict will come to an end soon, but I am proud of the action that our country is taking as a leader in response to the aggression after so many diplomatic attempts have failed.
Ernest, have you had any contact at all with friends in Kuwait since you were able to get out?
Actually, the first few days home, people in Kuwait were so concerned that someone went all the way to Baghdad just to call the United States and see that I got home all right and the family was doing okay, and I asked them to go back to Kuwait, and we haven't heard anything since then.
Joseph, how about you?
Likewise, I did receive a phone call from two Kuwaiti gentlemen that managed to escape. They called just to assure themselves that I did in fact make it, and likewise I expressed my deep, grave concern for their safety and the safety of their fellow countrymen.
Tony, can you describe to us how bad things were when you got out?
Well, on August 2nd, I can tell you that Kuwait turned from a peaceful, friendly, very nice place to live and work to a hell for everybody that was caught in there. All of a sudden, there was terror throughout the air. Within a few weeks, people were afraid to talk to me because I was an American, and so on. So overnight, there was terror prevalent throughout the place. When I got out there, the situation had become worse. While at the American Embassy for over 4 months, we received numerous telephone calls of people, brave people on the outside, how they were holding out and how they were trying their best, Kuwaitis, to help Americans that were in hiding.
Ernest, in the beginning of the interview, you talked about your support of the Allied forces now fighting in Kuwait and in Iraq. What is your hope about how this might end up being resolved?
Well, I have family among the various multinational forces myself, and I hope that perhaps in Baghdad some alarm bells will ring, and the Iraqis will decide to withdraw from Kuwait, and we can stop the fighting without committing our ground troops. That's my hope.
And Joseph, in the few seconds we have left, your hope?
Right now, I hope that the rest of the nation can pull together with the majority as of now, and to continue their support for the U.S. people in uniform and for the Allied forces. It is definitely not an easy time, but we do definitely need to continue support and prayers for all.
Thank you all for joining us, and sorry about the confusion at the beginning. I could not see you. We're going to be back right after this. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to a special edition of CBS This Morning. I'm Paula Zahn, and CBS News special coverage of the war in the Gulf continues.
We're going to get down to the headlines right now. The U.S. commander in the Gulf gives Operation Desert Storm the thumbs up. A total of 3 American warplanes are now confirmed down in the fighting. Israel considers how to respond to an Iraqi missile attack, and Baghdad threatens more action against Israel. The American commander in the Persian Gulf this morning held his first briefing since the war began. General Norman Schwarzkopf told reporters things are going as well as planned, including the battle at sea.
This morning, the Navy has engaged 3 enemy patrol boats and either disabled them or sunk them. In addition to that, we have increasing numbers of amphibious ships moving into the Gulf area at this time.
With General Schwarzkopf was the top Air Force commander in the Gulf, narrating just released pictures of Allied bombing raids. Air Force Commanding General Chuck Horner pointed out the amazing accuracy of the Allied bombing runs. This sequence was shot at night with an infrared camera aboard an F-117 stealth fighter, homing in on the Iraqi Air Force Ministry in downtown Baghdad. Other footage showed direct hits on Scud missile launchers and other military targets. The general says Allied warplanes destroyed 6 additional mobile missile launchers today, and that Iraq's remaining Scud launchers are getting top priority. And these pictures, smuggled out of Baghdad by a British news crew, show what the Allied assault looked like to people on the ground. There was also destruction in Israel, where 7 Scud missiles hit Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other areas of the coast. They did not carry chemical warheads, but did injure at least 10 people. The Israeli cabinet met this morning to decide if and how to respond to those attacks. And there are unconfirmed reports of Israeli jets on their way to Iraq. Meanwhile, the Iraqis are threatening more attacks against Israel. There were also reports of Allied losses and casualties this morning. General Schwarzkopf confirmed 7 Allied planes down, 3 of them American, and the first ground casualties, 2 Marines and a Navy medic, described as slightly wounded by Iraqi artillery fire near the Kuwait border. That's the headlines for right now.
And right now we're going to go back to Dhahran, Saudi Arabia to catch up with Scott Pelley. It's been just about an hour since we've had our briefing from General Schwarzkopf, and Scott now has some even newer information. Good morning again, Scott.
Good morning, Paula. General Schwarzkopf said in his briefing today that U.S. Air Force planes are attacking mobile Scud missile sites in Iraq, even as they were having that briefing. Apparently, U.S. Air Force pilots were able to find 8 of the mobile launchers, a very difficult task, and was attacking those mobile launchers at the time. We understand now that 3 of the mobile launchers have been destroyed. The remaining 5 are under attack. General Schwarzkopf also said that Saddam Hussein probably had a considerable sum of Scud missiles left. Last night, of course, there was the attack on Tel Aviv and other points in Israel, and here in Dhahran, at a major airbase where we are now, one Scud missile was launched to this location. It was knocked down by an American anti-missile system. One of the fears here today is that Saddam Hussein has been shown by the U.S. Air Force that his Scud missiles can be held at risk, can be found, can be destroyed, and he might decide to use them rather than lose them. The sun is setting here in Dhahran. The Scud missile attacks have occurred after sunset, and there is some fear here now that there will be more tonight.
Scott Pelley, thank you very much. Right now we're going to go to Washington, where we have Jim Stewart standing by at the Pentagon. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. The president is expected to be here around 2:30 this afternoon, we're told. He is going to be here for an hour. He'll go into the command and control room here and receive a briefing from Secretary Cheney, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Colin Powell, and the other Joint Chiefs. We're told that that briefing will be in much greater detail, obviously, than the one that was given the public earlier, but he will make no public appearances while he is here, simply arriving by the side gate here and then leaving 1 hour later. Now, one of the things that we're told that is of highest concern here at the Pentagon and in the Saudi Arabian command centers today are these Scud missiles. As General Schwarzkopf pointed out, they simply did not get all of them. That is the fixed missile sites as well as these mobile missile sites. And they are of increasing concern here. We know that Navy jets have been taking on these Scud sites now for 3 or 4 waves of attacks. We know that those attacks are continuing. But as the General said, this is like finding a needle in a haystack, and he said that there are a considerable number of needles still out there. Paula?
Can you also fill us in on the weather? We're told the weather's pretty bad right now and what impact that's having on operations.
I don't have any confirmation here of that, but I am led to believe that in fact it is causing some problems. How serious they are, we simply don't know at the moment.
All right, Jim Stewart reporting from the Pentagon. We've talked some this morning about how Americans are reacting to our 36-old operation now. 86% of those polled in yesterday's New York Times CBS News poll saying they approved of the way George Bush is handling all this. Right now we're going to go to Betsy Aaron, who's standing by in London, to get European reaction to the operation. Good morning, Betsy.
Good morning, Paula.
Can you fill us in on what the reaction has been so far?
Yes, you can look at the numbers of demonstrations across Europe, and those numbers are growing. We have some very good pictures from demonstrations last night across Europe, first in Germany. In Berlin, German police used powerful water cannons to break up a crowd of over 100,000 anti-war demonstrators last night. There were arrests. There were outbreaks of violence between police and demonstrators also in Frankfurt and Hamburg. As the war intensifies in the Gulf, the numbers of anti-war activists taking to the streets in Europe rises. In Paris, the Peace March was peaceful. The slogan's the same worldwide: no blood for oil. Here in London, outside the American Embassy, the numbers were fewer, the passion as intense.
Western butchers out! Hands off Iraq!
These peace protests, these anti-war demonstrations, in no way support the actions of Saddam Hussein. But if Saddam thinks he has no friends in the world, he should look towards Algiers, where thousands of his supporters took to the streets, carrying his picture and shouting support. To put all of this in some sort of perspective, when reports of planes lost and bodies arriving come in, obviously the early euphoria of the war is wearing off and people take to the streets. But at the same time, more countries are joining the war effort. Both Italy and Turkey have committed their forces to that war effort. So the coalition is growing, holding, and very strong. Paula?
Betsy Aaron, thank you very much. Sorry about the confusion at the top of your report.
Just a little over an hour ago, we got some incredible pictures this morning from Saudi Arabia and a debriefing with General Schwarzkopf. Pictures taken off of the noses of some of our warplanes as they invaded Baghdad and other parts of Iraq. Pictures taken with infrared cameras. For those of you who are just waking up this morning, we're going to get a second look at some of those pictures right now as Morley Safer joins us along with General Dugan, one of our military analysts. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Harry. Good morning. It was just about an hour ago that the Pentagon released those pictures of the aerial assault, and they're remarkably dramatic photographs. Lieutenant General Chuck Horner, who's the commander of the Allied Air Forces, describes just what's happening in these.
Runway at an airfield halfway between Baghdad and Kuwait. The center of the runway is the end point. This is where the laser designator is pointed. This is taken at night with infrared sensors. And there the bomb goes off in the center of the runway. The next one is a Scud storage building in Kuwait. And keep your eye on the entrance to the storage. Again, the pilot has released his bombs about 2 miles away. He's banking away from the target, leaving the target area, lasing the target, and you'll see 2 bombs fly into the door of the storage bunker. You can almost get airsick watching this. And you'll be able to count each bomb. 1, 2. Those are 2,000-pound bombs. And this is my counterpart's headquarters in Baghdad.
This is the headquarters of the Air Force, and keep your eye on all sides of the building as the airplane overflies the building and drops the bomb down through the center of the building.
Remarkable stuff.
I hope there wasn't a briefing going on for the press in the headquarters when that occurred.
Are you sure you really hope
It is.
But these are all laser-guided smart bombs,
These
correct?
are smart bombs. These are the kinds of modern weapons that we've added to our inventory over the past 5 or 10 years that have increased the military effectiveness of our airplanes by an order of magnitude.
You know, it's interesting. Photographs like this do tend to lead to a kind of euphoria. Hit, hit, hit. The fact is, General Horner did go on to say this morning that the flak in Iraq is, if anything, greater and more sophisticated than anything that was encountered by our pilots
Yes, he did.
in Vietnam, which suggests that these pictures notwithstanding, we should not be that optimistic
not
about
that
this
euphoric.
air war being very short.
He mentioned that there was areas where the flak and the defenses were very heavy, and there was areas that it was relatively insignificant. So around the significant targets, around the Baghdad area where the major headquarters are, around some of the major airfields, both surface-to-air missiles and gun systems are very heavy. Guns were mentioned specifically, and guns have been the big killers of jet fighters in the past couple of wars.
We, the Allies, have lost 7 aircraft. And I believe General Horner said only 1 to a SAM missile.
Yes.
The other 6 were to conventional, old-fashioned anti-aircraft.
Yes, that still counts. It's still a very devastating weapon, high rate of fire, and if airplanes fly through it,
A couple of other interesting things in the military briefing this morning from General Schwarzkopf, who said in the most emphatic way that when people pressed him on how long this war is going on, he said there is no way that he is going to sacrifice men, casualties, to make this a short war.
General Schwarzkopf is an infantryman himself, and he is not going to sacrifice his troops for the wrong kind of objective, and he's not going to get into a body count, he said. He is focused on the objective of removing Saddam Hussein and Iraqi forces from Kuwait. When he does that, he'll be a success. All the rest of those measures of merit.
It's fascinating, you know, how many of these little memory joggers of Vietnam come up, particularly when, as you said, General Schwarzkopf said, no numbers game.
Yep.
It was very clear that he was not going to repeat perhaps some of the mistakes that were made in the Westmoreland time.
Some of those things are burned very heavily into the hearts and minds of the military men that are in charge of this.
Thank you, General.
Morley, General, thank you. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back with more of our continuous coverage of Operation Desert Storm.
When I think of everything I put in my hair to make it shiny, more manageable, and all it took was a touch of VO5. Yeah, VO5.
VO5 hairdressing. A touch does so much.
Wow. I just tried VO5 for the first time. Yeah, the stuff in the tube your old man used for control. The stuff that's been around forever. Now I know why.
VO5 hairdressing. A touch does so much.
Come on along, I'll take you to the lullaby of Broadway. The hickory and ballyhoo.
The lullaby of Broadway.
And in the center of it all
Is the Milford Plaza.
Stay at the Milford Plaza Hotel with cocktail dinner and breakfast for $49.50 per person. Discover why we are the lullaby of Broadway.
The Milford Plaza is the lullaby of all Broadway.
Cleaning toilets is a lousy job, so I invented 2000 Flushes Blue to help you. It's loaded with detergents, cleans and deodorizes automatically, up to 4 months. Try my 2000 Flushes Blue or green. Cleans your toilet with every flush.
I'll never get through tomorrow if I don't get some Z's.
Introducing single-dose maximum strength Nitol. Just one will help you fall fast asleep fast. New maximum strength Nitol. Just one Nitol will help you get a lot of Z's.
When life's little irritations are everywhere you turn, more people turn to Visine. When eyes need it most, it's the most trusted name for relief. Visine gets the red out and a whole lot more.
Why do I enjoy healthier Alpine Lace, low cholesterol and low sodium Swiss low cheese? Because it tastes so good. And Now it's even lower in fat.
The healthy and tasty Swiss low cheese tastes so good from Alpine Lace.
Air sorties a day against Iraq. Those runs are said to be 80% successful, but a total of 7 Allied aircraft have been lost, 3 of them American. So far, Israel has not retaliated for last night's Iraqi Scud missile attack. General Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of Allied forces in the Persian Gulf, briefed reporters in Saudi Arabia today, giving the Allied war effort a positive review. To back up his claims, the Defense Department released riveting video of bombing raids made during the first night of the attack. The pictures taken with infrared cameras show U.S. jets, including Air Force F-117 stealth fighters, dropping powerful bombs with astonishing accuracy. The targets included missile launchers, Iraqi runways, and the Baghdad headquarters of the Iraqi Air Force Command. General Chuck Horner, leader of the U.S. Air Forces in the Gulf, also detailed U.S. successes against Iraqi air power.
What we have seen is when they've come up and engaged, we tend to shoot them down if they persist in the engagement. Normally they break off when our fire control radars lock onto them and flee to the north.
And today we are told U.S. Air Forces are targeting Iraqi mobile Scud missile launchers and have destroyed 6 of them. Iraq, that is, used such mobile launchers to fire at least 7 Scud rockets at Israeli civilian targets last night. So far, the Israelis have not responded to those attacks, and we're going to have a little bit more on the situation in Israel from Bill McLaughlin a little bit later on.
We want to talk right now with Fred Barnes and Juan Williams down in Washington. Fred Barnes from the New Republic, Juan Williams from the Washington Post. And gentlemen, as we have these chats a couple of times a week for some weeks now, I think the thing that is heavy on most people's minds this morning is whether or not Israel is going to go ahead and decide to militarily retaliate for the Scud missile attacks last night. Fred, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think they probably won't. I've talked to people at the White House myself who I know there, and they obviously don't want Israel to retaliate. That complicates the American mission in the Middle East, and they think Israel won't. They're fairly optimistic that that's what's going to happen, no retaliation.
Juan, do you have any ideas about it?
Well, I think that what you're seeing is that last night, I think the minute that the news came of the attacks on Israel, you saw a real sense of panic spread in the political community here, because I think it clearly is the case that the American people then saw the potential that you would have a much wider and long-lasting conflict, which is exactly the road to hell as far as politicians in this town are concerned, because the American public support would evaporate very quickly. People are very concerned. Just yesterday in the Senate, we had a resolution passed of support for this effort, but it was a big debate between the Democrats who didn't want to support the idea of additional military force, or say that they somehow support it, and Republicans who wanted that for the president.
What is going to happen, though, in Israel right now with there has to be incredible civilian pressure on the politicians there, saying, we said we would trust America to protect us through all of this. Here we sit, 7 Scuds have come in, hit civilian locations. We have to do something about it. We have to get involved in all of this.
Well, I think you have to look at it a little bit from a different angle when you talk about Washington, Herrick. From Washington's perspective, it's clearly the case that we're trying to carry the ball over there, and we're counting on Israel to be a good ally. And I think there's a lot of pressure feeling that we are currently engaged in retaliatory acts in support of Israel, and being very clear about it. And the case is, will Israel stand by us? I think clearly the Israelis are saying that they didn't take preemptory attacks, but from the American perspective, it differs somewhat.
It is interesting to me, Fred, that the alliance that was built and the idea that Israel has had to take such a backseat role through all of this, the coalition building that was done and the trust that Israel put in the United States through all of this has been really quite phenomenal.
Well, it really has been, and the Israelis are, of course, the people there whose very survival as a nation has basically been at stake for the last 40 years, and so they're naturally very worried. But this attack, I think it would have had a different impact on Israel if a lot of people had been killed, or if chemical weapons had been used, because they have a particular horror given the Holocaust during World War II. But under the circumstances, I think we're very lucky that these attacks, which I think were desperate attacks by Saddam Hussein, sure, he has some Scud missiles left, but he's not using them to attack military sites. He's using them just to sow distrust, to terrorize the Allies, to try to hurt the coalition politically and not militarily.
Fred Barnes, Juan Williams, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us this morning.
As you know, there's been some confusion this morning as to whether the Israelis have in fact made a decision whether to retaliate or not. Let's go to Bill McLaughlin, who's standing by in Tel Aviv right now. What can you tell us about the cabinet meetings that were held?
Well, the main cabinet meeting is over, although there are still meetings going on in the very restricted war cabinet, Paula. I have to say that it's Shabbat, it's the Jewish Sabbath, and the streets are empty, the town is very quiet, but not for any religious reasons, but because in this city usually filled with rumors and gossip, there's now a lot of fear. Everyone seems to be agreed that there is going to be, sometime tonight, yet another Iraqi Scud missile attack. The only question is, what kind of attack? Conventional, as it was earlier today, or chemical? The cabinet had to decide how to respond, what to do. There seems to be, from what I'm getting is this, that there is very little doubt that although there has been debate and argument within the cabinet, debate and argument between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and Washington, the Israelis have told Baker, there was a conversation earlier today, I'm told, between Baker and Shamir, Baker pleading that for the Israelis to hold back, and Shamir saying, look, we have to defend ourselves. I think this is what's going to happen. If the Iraqis trundle out their missile launchers again tonight, launch them, Israel will again absorb a strike, but it's going to hit back somehow. But it's not going to hit back at any civilian population centers. It's not going to answer back in kind. It'll go after purely military targets. And that in itself will probably, people here believe, probably not upset the U.S. Arab coalition.
Yeah, people here are saying that that's sort of a sanitized attack. Is that really sort of the impression that you get from other folks out there that you talk to, that if in fact they carried on with an attack like that, that it wouldn't diminish support for the coalition?
Absolutely. It would be that kind of sanitized attack, as you put it. However, and this is a really big however, if the Iraqis are so suicidal as to use chemical weapons against Israel, all bets are off. I wouldn't want to predict what the Israelis would then do. The whole idea of using poison gas against the Jewish state, with all those historical implications, is so incredible that I don't think anyone here is prepared to gauge or to measure or to predict the Israeli response.
Bill McLaughlin reporting from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much.
Our continuing coverage of Operation Desert Storm. We'll be back in just a second.
Harry and I are both back, and I'm going to continue my conversation right now with Bill McLaughlin, who is in Tel Aviv. Can you give us an idea of what, in fact, the Israelis are doing to prepare for what they seem to think will be a second night of attacks?
They're doing very practical things. They're making sure they've got their gas masks and their disinfection kits next to them. They're making sure they have their loved ones nearby. There was a rush at supermarkets, although the supermarkets closed about 2 hours ago now. People are staying home. They're staying in touch. They're listening to the radio. There is an extraordinary faith in this country in the government at this time, at times of crisis. They believe the government, they believe the army, they're listening to what the government and the army have to say, and they're being extraordinarily well disciplined. This is a country where usually the people don't listen to the government, where usually they quarrel with it. But in times of crisis, they pull together in the most extraordinary way.
And the government, of course, is getting tremendous pressure on it from everywhere today. Most of the congressmen and senators that we talked with this morning reinforced that all morning long. Give us a sense of just how much pressure is being brought to bear on the Israelis by the British and the United States.
This is the kind of country, because of its history, that can, a lot of pressure, to answer that question real quickly, but it's the kind of country that can ignore that pressure because of its very unique, peculiar tradition. Don't forget, there's also tremendous internal domestic pressure for the Israelis to do something. They have a government, just the way we have a government, and they have public opinion just as we have public opinion, and the public opinion here is saying, do something, hit back. And also, Israeli morale is a little bit low. They need to do something to boost that morale. They have to show that Israel is present. That means going after purely military and strategic targets, but leaving the civilians alone.
Bill McLaughlin, thank you so much, reporting from Tel Aviv for us this morning.
Paula, we're measuring reaction around the country from different people. There have been all kinds of response to Operation Desert Storm, as it's now more than a day and a half old. And we want to check in right now with Lois Flickinger of Lansing, Michigan. Good morning, Lois.
Good morning.
We pronounce your name okay?
Pretty close. It's Flickinger.
Okay, Flickinger. If we can get the cameraman who is standing with you there, Lois, to pull out a little bit, we want to take a look at a billboard that you're at least in part responsible for. Tell us what this project is all about.
It's part of a statewide campaign where we've put up 100 billboards throughout the entire state of Michigan, simply to encourage people and remind them that the most important thing to do to bring a peaceful resolution to the Mideast crisis is to pray.
Lois, do you think of yourself as being particularly anti-war, or do you feel like the government is doing the wrong thing, or is the motivation here different?
I don't want to be classified as anti-war or pro-war. This is simply an appeal for the only real resolution to the problem, and it's one that everyone throughout the country, no matter what their position is, can find valid, because God works from within the hearts of people, and we're looking for something that's based in truth and justice, not just pure victory. And so both sides are aiming for that, although they're working from different positions.
Now, did you get the billboard company to donate this space?
Yes, I did. On December 20th, just on an impulse, I called Gannett Outdoor Advertising, and I asked questions as to how expensive this would be to just put a couple up in the Grand Rapids area. And they went from there, and they offered me 100 of them statewide, rent-free and installation-free, and all I had to do was pay the cost of putting up the poster that they put up there. And they even worked out a deal with me from the printer. So they've been very, very cooperative, and I understand outdoor advertising companies are like this. They're willing to work with me as long as it's necessary to keep this going.
What has the response been to this billboard campaign? If some of these have been up since December already, what kinds of things are you hearing back?
Everything is positive. There hasn't been a negative note yet. All the people seem to be wondering why it took so long for there to be a public appeal to pray. And I think the basis of this is that the majority of Americans believe in God. Our money still even says that it's in God we trust. And at least, and most necessarily in times of crisis, that is where they put their trust, even if they do it privately. So it's important to them to know that their leaders are going to be supported by the prayers of the nation. And I think that they would really like it if their political leaders would call them to pray and ask for their support in that way. It gives them something positive that they can do. And the most special and touching response I've had have been from the children. I've been working with one of the schools in Grand Rapids, and the children who at first earlier this week were in tears because of the tenseness over the situation have turned to prayer, and they're calming down. They're not happy about the situation, but they don't feel like it's totally 100% out of their control anymore.
It's part of the way America is responding in Lansing, Michigan this morning with Lois Flickinger. There are more than 100 of those billboards that have been put up throughout the state of Michigan.
Our coverage will continue right after this. We'll be right back.
This is CBS.
It's the January deduction sale at Beaman Pontiac. With deals like this 91 Sunbird that has a deduction of $20.34 and a final Beaman price of $75.91. Or this 91 Pontiac Grand Am. Folks, you can save over $2,000 on this one. The Beaman price is $88.96. It's deal after deal in January at Beaman Pontiac, 1525 Broadway at West End.
Back to the basics. Come home to Beaman.
Once a year, there's a coat sale so big it breaks records. Right now, Burlington Coat Factory has slashed its already low prices on over 2 million coats during its once-a-year warehouse sale. It's America's greatest coat sale with tremendous savings on top-name coats for women, men, and children, plus sportswear, kids' clothes, and menswear at the lowest prices of the season now. Don't wait. At these prices, they won't hang around long. Save now on coats and so much more during Burlington's once-a-year warehouse sale.
watching CBS News' continuing coverage of Showdown in the Gulf. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here are Harry Smith and Paula Zahn.
We continue now with our special coverage of Operation Desert Storm. I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Paula Zahn. Here are the headlines as our coverage continues. The U.S. Gulf Commander promises to destroy Iraq's Scud missiles. But 7 Scuds hit Israel, causing damage and injuries. More Allied losses and casualties are confirmed in the Gulf. And anti-war protests continue. The American commanding general in the Persian Gulf gave his first assessment this morning of just how well things are progressing. General Norman Schwarzkopf unveiled pictures shot from U.S. warplanes showing the accuracy of their bombing runs.